but now they know they do anything with the power. Every day, dollar just they get the higher power over naira. Still them talk say make we off mind, but thank God say my ego don't come. So my people make you lie down, yo yo. My ego don't come, oh yo yo. My people make we shout, oh yo yo. My ego don't come, oh yo yo. My ego don't come, man of the masses, oh yo yo. My ego don't come, oh yo yo. My ego diary politico, oh yo yo. My ego don't come, oh yo yo. This one not they off in mind, oh yo yo. My ego don't come, oh yo yo. Person where they do evil, no one make person talk. Them say that Mayegun, that man too they talk. He too they talk. Say Mayegun diary, he dey hot like pepper. But every day, then they take money in bulk. Woman picking, they the street they hawk. Still them talk say, make we no talk. But thank God say, Mayegun don't come. So my people make you laugh, oh yo yo. Mayegun don't come, oh yo yo. My people make you shout, oh yo yo. Mayegun don't come, oh yo yo. Man of the masses, my ego don't come, my ego diary politico, my ego don't come,
Hello there.
My ego now I'm on do.
Morning to you, good afternoon to you, and good evening to you from wherever you are watching from. This is Mayegun Live. Thank you so much for joining me from wherever you are joining from. Remember, before you settle down, okay, share the broadcast. If you have to read the caption first, the description of the broadcast, do that. But share the broadcast. Invite your friends, invite your not so friendly friends, and tell them that Mayegun today. Ifnumbu has vowed to rescue the kidnapped school children in Kaduna, of course. There are others. In the last 48 hours in Nigeria, over 400 people have been kidnapped and more than 30 have been killed. There's some women who went to the stream, those who went to the market, those who went to the farm, they ended up in the hands of their kidnappers. You will hear that tonight. Good news is that Omoyele Sowore will be reuniting with his family after 5 years of illegal detention in Nigeria. So good morning to you once again, good afternoon to you, and good evening to you from wherever you are joining me from. It is Mayegun Live. So we are going to start with the latest kidnapping in Kaduna. I slightly discussed that this afternoon. For those who probably participated in that this afternoon, we will have more details tonight. In fact, just while we were live this afternoon, Tinubu's government responded, and according to him, they feel bad. This is like after 48 hours, okay? They feel bad that happened, and they are doing everything to get the children back. Of course, we want them back, all right? But usually when things like this happens, responsible governments, in any part of the world, any responsible government would ensure that something like this never happens again, but not in Nigeria. We know, apart from the noise, the international sort of attention that we have managed to bring towards this, right? We know that usually they will play all the media drama, media show off, and the rest of that, okay? Then the families, the victims, and the rest of them are left on their own. They are left to themselves. That is the reality. But Tinubu, whose government or regime has continued where Boko Haram stopped. Almost everything that Boko Haram did to Nigeria in 8 years, Tinubu and his 48 thieves have, and then others too, right? They have managed to continue unabated. And that is why I am going to share with you first the reactions of those, I'm talking about the families of the children kidnapped in Kaduna. Let's start from there, even though if you have seen this before, okay? This is the detailed part tonight. We will start from here.
Please help us. We beg you in the name of God. Where is our president? Where is our governor? Please don't let them take them away from us. Please follow them to the forest and rescue our loved ones. In some families, 7 members were kidnapped. Another 5 were taken.
After receiving reports of a bandit attack on a primary and secondary school in Kaduna, Governor Obasani led a delegation to Kuriga village in Chikun local government to get first-hand information of the incident. Narrating the tragic incident to the governor, the teacher in the school says at GSS Kuriga, 187 students are presently missing, while in the primary school, 125 pupils were initially missing, but 25 returned home.
I resumed to the school today at exactly 7:47 a.m. I entered the acting principal's office and signed. All of a sudden, the acting principal asked me to look at my back, and when I turned, we discovered that bandits had surrounded the school premises. We became confused. We didn't know where to go. Then bandits asked us to enter the bush. We obeyed them. Because there were many and the pupils were about 700 were following us. So when we entered the bush, I was lucky to escape alongside many other people. So I returned to the village and reported what happened to the community. Immediately, our vigilante and personnel of Cadvis followed the bandits, but the vigilante did not succeed. In fact, the bandit killed one of the vigilante. We just buried him a while ago. It was when we came back from that pursuit that we blew the village head, and we started making efforts to know the actual number of pupils and teachers that were taken by bandits. At GSS Kuriga, 187 students are presently missing. In the primary school, 125 pupils were initially missing, but 25 of them escaped and returned home.
An emotional chief of Kuriga town laments the insecurity in the area and appeals to the governor to assist in the deployment of troops to secure lives and property. While addressing the community, Governor Obasani sympathized with the parents and families of the abducted students, although he says the figures of those abducted is still sketchy. However, he is working tirelessly to ensure that those abducted regain their freedom on Hot.
That was the report from that Kuriga village. So now let me give you the quick backstory, okay? 2 days ago, while the government school in this community in Kaduna, while they were conducting their morning devotion, you know, the normal assemblies and all that. So according to them, immediately after 8:30 in the morning, the terrorists came. They didn't give us details of how they came, but according to that teacher who said he escaped, according to him, he said over 700 school children were initially kidnapped and marched into the forest. But some managed to escape. Okay, so the the amount of logistics that you are going to need to move over 700 people will be so enormous. Now, the one you used in moving successfully 287 school children from that community undetected. I mean, according to the teacher, until they escaped, ran back to the village, nobody knew what was going on. I do not know the number or the population of people living in that community, that over 700 children will be moved out of a school and there was no alarm to the rest of the community. I do not know how that worked. But according to this guy, the teacher, over 700 children were marched into the forest, but some escaped. Then they decided to go and take stock by counting those that they could see physically. That was when they came up with 287 of them still missing. I still do imagine the amount of logistics that terrorists will kind of have to be able to move over 200, 300 people successfully, undetected, until they begin to make demands, ransom. I am still very much in awe of that, I have to say. And that is where the state collusion comes in. This is where the people that want to keep you safe, protect you, have shown that they are already compromised. Because, I mean, I can't walk into a place. Let's say I bring 5 or 6 of my friends and we decided, okay, let us go and kidnap people. I mean, do you know the amount of resources that will go into that? And without the corrupt, compromised security system in Nigeria, I don't see how that should be able. I don't see how anybody will be able to carry out such abduction undetected. But that will be a story for another day, Abi. Oh, you've heard it many times. Here is another report. This one is kind of being presented by a member of House of Representatives whose constituents have been massively kidnapped in the last few days. I wanted to let's have it.
Very sensitive about this all-important issue. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform this Honorable House that on Sunday in my constituency, Bamangala Kalabalge, almost 300 young ladies were abducted while they were in search of firewood for domestic and commercial purposes in one village, Bulabulti village, in the western part of Ngala town. Your Excellency, honorable colleagues, you may wish to note that these young ladies were looking for firewood to sustain livelihood, knowing fully that commercial activities...
Please raise our microphone. We want to hear her clearly.
Knowing fully that commercial activities in that part of the country is very minimal, and they have no option than to go into the bush to look for firewood for both commercial and domestic purposes. And these young girls women were adopted while they are in search, and the Boko Haram surrounded them, unfortunately, in the bush, and then carted them away into their den in the Lake Chad regions after freeing some few old women among them. You should also note, sir, honorable colleagues, that since the abduction of the 276 Chibok girls on 14th April 2014, this is one of the major abductions being done by Boko Haram. I wish to indulge on this honorable House to plead with the security agency, NEMA, and everybody that is concerned to come into the aid of these young ladies and then declare a state of emergency to search for these young girls as soon as possible, so that it will not take as long as it has taken the Chibok girls to be rescued. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dogwa, Mr. Speaker, I represent the good people of Tudunwada Dogwa Federal Constituency in Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I would like to very unusually crave your indulgence and that of the House, that in the light of the fact that we have a very light order paper today and we're about rounding up, and on a serious note of the weighty nature of the information passed on the floor here by our honorable colleague, Sister Zainab Gimba, which of course involved the liberty of over 350 young men and women, like she said. So I would like to crave your indulgence and the leave of the House, if you could allow Mariam Gimba to quickly go beyond just the passage of information on the floor of the House. The matter, I feel, is too important to just be mentioned without necessarily taking a legislative pronouncement immediately. So I want to crave your indulgence. I have discussed with her that she is ready and she has the motion on her system. If the House could allow her, bearing in mind the tragic nature of what actually happened and the sensitivity of the matter she brought, to allow her pick it as a motion, so that at the end the House could take a position and is now resolved as a pronouncement of this honorable House, not just an information like she just passed. So I plead with the House to allow that, please.
Thank you. You know, hardly, because the order of business of the day, once it is out there, we usually follow it strictly. But because we saw that she flew into the country because of what just happened, and she came here in tears, and the compassion and the passion for her constituent, we decided to do what was not, ordinary to this House by waiving 8, But because she was also emotional, she did not present it as a motion, with a space for us to move a resolution, to have a resolution from the House. And that was why we asked her to bring it next week. But based on your plea, does she have the copy of the motion? Can I see a copy?
Yes, I guess she has
with
one.
Necessary prayers.
I guess she should have one with her now.
Can I have a copy, please? Based on your plea and the urgency of this matter and its importance,
we'll come back to you, the complainant in the National Assembly. That's a lady who believes that 300 ladies have been kidnapped in northern Naone constituency, and she believes that if the National Assembly can help them by bringing attention to it, like she just did, but she was saying that they should please plead with the security agents to go and help and rescue them. Now, if we have 300 ladies kidnapped by Boko Haram, and they are currently in their, in their custody as hostages. So now add the 300 plus 287 school children. That will make it over 500, and that will make it 587, yeah? They haven't given account of how many school teachers were kidnapped in that school as well yet, okay? So we will wait on that. While you were watching that, I was having a chat, a little one, with my people on TikTok. So I want to tell you what that was. You see, everyone who has been on this platform, who has been following the developments in Nigeria, the terrorism in Nigeria, majority of you have more knowledge, detailed understanding of what is really happening there. Because typically, what the criminal system in Nigeria wanted us to do, even if we are going to talk about all of these killings and kidnappings, they don't want us to mention those behind it. Because mentioning those behind it or naming the culprit, the criminals, the terrorists, will be considered as, trying to blacklist a tribe or an ethnic, what have you. But here is the problem. Everybody knows that Nigeria is in trouble. A lot, even the criminals in charge knows. And we also know that the terrorism in Nigeria, the insecurity in Nigeria, in every part of Nigeria, is the creation of government. We do know. We know those who brought in terrorists into Nigeria, Fulani terrorists in particular. They do not want us to call them Fulani terrorists. They want us to call them bandits. And they are not bandits. They are terrorists. While they were trying to cover the terrorists in Nigeria under Boko, where they wanted us to part with our lands, your lands or your lives, that's what they asked us. Give up your lands or you give up your lives. We knew then that they were trying to claim our lands for Fulani terrorists that they once told us came from Futa Jalon, Futa Sorrow, Futa Sadness, and Futa Anguish. However, we also saw how the Nigeria government under Boko decided to not only militarize the eastern part of Nigeria, it is also to terrorize the eastern part of Nigeria. We saw how and how much they spent locally and internationally to convince all of you that IPOB is going to be more dangerous than Boko Haram. There are people from northern Nigeria that believes that Boko Haram are freedom fighters, but IPOB is more dangerous than them. IPOB, ESN, they have not attacked one single person, kidnapped any single person on record, though. Then they created unknown gunmen, which is to kind of tell you that, oh, you see those armed gunmen that never encountered the Nigerian military, despite the fact that the eastern part of Nigeria is so militarized that every 100 meters you will see a military roadblock. They are flexing their muscle in the eastern Nigeria, but you will never hear where they will say unknown gunmen, they engage in gun battle with the Nigerian military in eastern part of Nigeria. Rather, you will see the Nigerian terrorist military in eastern part of Nigeria attacking civilian communities, and they will say they are looking for ESN. So why am I saying this? So many times we have seen APC try to change narrative, okay, by trying to make you believe that this terrorism is not limited to these Fulanis and their jihadist fellows in Boko Haram. They have been doing everything to convince you that ESNO, IPOBO, they are more dangerous, yeah? And some of you actually believe them. To the point that you have grown so cold and numb when you hear news of the killings of the Fulani terrorists, the killings of the Boko Haram. You are so numb that somehow you are desperate to look for something to justify it. But the question you are not asking yourself is this: how come that despite the amount of military that they've pumped to the eastern part of Nigeria, how come, say, the unknown gunmen that they will say they are like, unknown gunmen that they said are troubling the place, right? Which are politically armed thugs of APC and PDP, by the way. How come they know they engage in gun battle? That's number one. Secondly, when we tell you about Fulani terrorists, when I tell you about the Boko Haram terrorists and their sponsor, I give you evidence. Not only the evidence of what they have done, but from the victim's mouth. People come out and say, we were kidnapped by the Fulani terrorists. We paid ransom to Fulani terrorists. But some people are doing so much, more than they are overworking than the devil, trying to convince you that what if they are not Fulani? What if they are other people like Yorubas? Are you sure that all these people that are kidnapping people are Yorubas? They kidnapped Igwe in eastern Nigeria. The man came back and said, those who kidnapped him were Fulani terrorists. But somebody on social media wants to convince you and say, they are kidnapping people in eastern Nigeria too. I am asking you, if you do have any victims of kidnapping in eastern Nigeria, who came up and say he was kidnapped by IPOB or ESN, send it to me. Because we know how much you, Olori Brukus, are working more than the devil to try to justify this terrorism and make people understand, make people feel like it is normal. They should get used to it. They killed Yoruba Obas in Ekiti. We saw Yoruba APC, Olori Bruku Omo Alace, cooking up different stories of, oh, they've arrested the people who killed the Obas. And in fact, they are Yorubas. Oh, they've arrested this also and so. He's working with kidnappers. Now we know that it's not Fulani. At the end of the day, Kolori ko niru. But the Yoruba Obas were slaughtered. And that's why I told you, like, you can continue to pretend and hide. Seriously. When you become a victim, they will send me your story. And I will use your story to teach others. I'm not saying you shouldn't get so mad. I mean, I'm not saying I am here to cure your madness of your Igbo versus Yoruba madness that some of you are suffering from. But I am here to call your attention to what is about to kill you. And you will not be saved by that your bigotry of Yoruba, this Igbo, that, because the terrorists and the terror that is spreading, we know those behind it. And we know those who are covering it. We know how much the state collusion is preventing justice. In fact, it's so bad that people are not allowed to defend themselves. We are seeing all of that. And you want to point fingers without evidence. Anyway, let's go back to that, Honorable. Because I have seen where a lot of people have been walking over like more than the devil to try to make you think if they are kidnapping people in in northern Nigeria and kidnapping people in southern and eastern Nigeria, it is normal. Everybody has their own criminals from their own. No. Don't mix it up. Let's go back to this lady, because I still have a long night, by the way. Here.
Honorable Dr. Zainab Gimba, I represent Bama Ngalakala Belbe Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Borno State. Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Mr. Speaker,
just go straight to the motion. Move.
I wish to move for the suspension. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since my senior colleague, Honorable Dogwa, has made that suspension, I would like to move on with the motion. Mr. Speaker, the motion is abduction of dozens of women and children in IDP camps in Gala, Borno State. The House knows the recent abduction of dozens of women and children in Gala, Borno State by the Boko Haram insurgents. Also knows that the abduction took place last Sunday, the 3rd, when the women went to fetch firewood in the bush for domestic and commercial purposes. Further knows that while the women were fetching the firewood, they were surrounded by the insurgents in Bulabultie village in the western part of Ngala town. Again knows that the insurgents freed the old age, but abducted about or almost 300 evil young girls and boys. Aware that most of the abducted women were from Babban Sansani and some from Zulum and Arabic camps. Worried that lack of enough food in the camps
Honorable Madaki, approach the chair.
has forced
Honorable
the women
Alijesi,
to go
approach the
in
chair.
search of firewood to sell so as to complement the food being given to them
Honorable
in the
Madaki,
camps
approach the chair.
by the state government and some other development partners. Note that 3 girls escaped from the den of the insurgents, reported that they were taken to a bush close to Bunkar Mairam village along the shores of the Lake Chad, bordering the Republic of Chad and Cameroon. Also worried that the women were made to search for firewood for sale in view of the cost of living in the camps, where a small measure of corn flour is sold at 2,200 to 2,500, and this has made life very unbearable to them. Recalls that this is one of the major abductions that took place in Borno State since the abduction of the 276 girls of Gaman Girls Secondary School Chibok on the night of the 14th April in 2014. Resolves to urge the security personnel deployed to the camps to intensify vigilance in and around the camps. The House also resolves to task all security agencies to rescue all abducted victims. It further urged the NEMA to take necessary measures to ensure that residents of the camps are adequately fed, and equally mandate the committees on emergency and disaster preparedness and internally displaced persons and refugees to ensure compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't see where your prayers.
Yeah, it is here.
Is it one of your prayers, or somebody want to make an amendment to that? Because to me, that is more important than NEMA.
Yeah, I've said
and all the rest of them. I want to get those girls back.
It is here, sir. I've made mention of it.
Prayer number what?
I made it at prayer number 1 to task all security agencies to rescue all abducted victims. Let me give you the amended.
Nuisance Lele. Nuisance Lele.
Sorry, Jerry, ladies, okay? Nuisance in here. Even though the message is delivered, but she said she's praying for the other clowns inside that place to help them talk to the government so that they can help them rescue. I don't know. Nigeria at the finish. I am just here to remind you every day. Okay? So, somebody was like, we don't need all this talk. We need action. Baba Moya Kobo Wiri, Ashiri, action from who? Action, Latowatani. You are being ruined. And a lot of you who are the direct victims, you are there on your phone, keypad warrior. Go, Mayegun, we don't need all this talk. We need action. Mayegun, we don't need all this talk. We need revolution. Baba, what have you done in your capacity to help us get to the road of that revolution? Personally, what have you done in your own personal private capacity? Shibufe revolution. What have you done? You are waiting for somebody else, Abi. Hey now, we need action. Action from who? In the last 6 months alone, how much of the action have you taken in your personal capacity? Apart from you and your phone, telling people to stop talking but do action. Action from where? You see, we have reminded you a lot. So see, those of you who wanted revolution and the rest of you who are waiting for others to start it, you are not ready. When you are ready, when the bedu enter body very well, you won't sit on that your phone and then asking Mayegun, what can we do now? What is the next thing to do? Because you are not ready. When you are ready, you will know what to do. You won't wait for anybody. Okay? The action that you need is right there in your own hand. Or if you think, so all this talk, so one of them, even one useless one, even said, all this talk, nobody is listening to you. But you are listening to me. You are here. You could be elsewhere. You could be somewhere else. But you are here. Somehow, you are concerned. You know that somehow, this also affects you, even if you want to pretend it doesn't. This is my own role to make every one of you understand the danger that we are all in. Now, you can pretend or live in denial of it. But do you know what you will never deny? Your conscience, except if you haven't heard it from me. And as for the criminals in charge of Nigeria, they don't need to listen to me. They do not listen to any of you anyway. But you know something? A lot of you can hear them loud and clear. The shaggers from left, right, and center. They will hear from you. They don't need to hear from me. They will hear from all of you, all of us. And what they will hear, I don't know. That will be up to you. So let's go back a little bit. Where somebody was talking about, listen, this kidnappings is what you have heard. There is another ongoing genocide in Benue. Pray and tell that YouTube will not get mad with this video. I'll show it briefly. 17 people were slaughtered in a community in Benue. I mean, we saw the Fulani jihadists and the endless attack when they turned Benue, the food basket of Nigeria, to graveyard of Nigeria. Benue have different burial grounds. People killed by the Fulani terrorists in 8 years of Bukwari APC. In 2023, INEC Mahmoud announced that the state is now controlled by APC because a reverend father told them, right, that party doesn't matter because he who ended terrorism. Now the killings have continued, by the way. Yesterday's survivors. Abi, today's victims are yesterday's survivors. Tomorrow's victims are today's survivor. Some of us have survived today. Tomorrow is another day. Those ones survived, I think 2 days ago. They became the victims of the place this morning. Now, those who survived yesterday, who survived today, tomorrow is another day. So, back to 2015, where one of the people that worked for Pastor Ruga's a media man, Olaoluwa Akonde, who happened to be one of the sellers that did the devil's work for APC, Egbekegbe Bokwari, and Pastor Ruga. At the time, they don't give the guy a job for Channels Television now. So here he is, asking Dele Farotimi if he believes that if Numbu Kolu could possibly still turn the tide and perform the miracle he performed in Lagos. All lies. I want you to listen. Yeah.
A huge groundswell in this country, that produced, which was denominated by the change mantra. And you could see that there was a groundswell of opinion in the direction of change. Nigerians expected change. Now, I don't think that change has happened, and that's a long story. But this is my question. Do you think the fact that today we have as president somebody who had always been an active participant in the quest for good governance, even better governance, somebody who has been a pro-democracy activist even before he became governor, and somebody who gives us the record, and we know of some of the things that happened in Lagos, fairly useful. Do you think that he can turn around the situation that this country is in today? I must ask you that question, Mr. Farotimi. Is there any chance at all that if we are going to live by what he says, we can begin to turn the direction in a good or a better trajectory. Mr. Fautimi.
You know, one of the things that we have been very successful at doing is for our false narratives. We have created compelling lies that we have deluded ourselves into accepting as truth. One of them is where you started your question, the lies of 2014, 2015. I remember, not everybody bought into those lies. I remember very clearly that the essay that titled my first book, Do Not Die in Their War, published by Guardian on the 7th of February 2015, before the election, I said very clearly that there is an illusion of change being marketed, and that all you actually need to do to realize that it is delusional to believe in this lie is to look at the high table whenever they are talking about the APC. That each and every one of the persons sat on the high table is directly responsible for where we were as at that time. Nothing has changed between 2015 and today. Let's be clear about something. You said that the man had done some things in Lagos that should suggest to us that perhaps we'll see some changes in Nigeria. I put it to you, sir. Lagos is the 5th largest economy in Africa. I'm being told by multiple economists. What is it about the services and infrastructure in Lagos is suggestive of it being the 5th best in Africa? Is it the healthcare delivery system? The man built Lagos, quote and unquote, but he hasn't built a single healthcare facility in Lagos in 20-something years that is capable of treating his own many ailments. That is one. In Lagos State, for every government classroom, for every classroom built by the Lagos State government, and I'm not talking about those built in the last 20-something years, I'm talking about those that have been built from the inception till date. For everyone, there are at least 4 private classrooms. That is telling you the total failure of the educational system in Lagos is completely, almost completely privatized. The ones that are in existence are so degraded that nobody who can afford it will send their children to those schools. That is what has been built in the last 25 years. When you now begin to look at the road infrastructure in Lagos State, my neighborhood, the Lekki-Ekpe axis, they've been building the single road in and out of my neighborhood for over 16 years. It's not been completed. It's a nightmare to travel that road. Those are the examples you have to look at when you begin to look at what he might be able to do at the federal level. The finances of Lagos State remains one of the most opaque in Nigeria. What is happening is that in the midst of the rot that Nigeria has become, we've been pointing to the lies and propaganda being told of a Lagos that has been built and that will be replicated at the federal level. They'll point at some moribund rail lines. Let's talk about that. 16 or 17 years at God knows how much inflated cost they built the blue line. They're talking about a red line now. Question is, how much of that red line actually belongs to the federal government? How much of it was built by Lagos State government? At what cost? Fact of the matter is that if we actually look to the evidences of our eyes and we look to what we see within the states that the man has superintended for over 20 years in one form or the other, whether as governor or as godfather, reality is that it should tell us that we should expect nothing in Nigeria. And the evidence of the last 9 months are unimpeachable and cannot be denied. I know that the convenient excuse is always that Buhari had damaged it and is repairing it. But who brought Buhari? Who was the chief marketer of Buhari in 2014, 2015 when the change lie was sold to Nigerians? The fact of the matter is that
a huge...
Thank you, Jare DF. Dele Farotimi. Everyone who lives in Lagos, apart from those who are not proud of where they come from, but they suddenly became Lagosians. Those who cannot tell you where they come from, because most of where they come from have become so underdeveloped that they are not proud. But the Lagos they want you to believe exists, it exists in the imagination of these Uluri Brukus. to them, collecting money from people, which is not in any way corroborate with the development that is associated with it. 16 years to build one single rail line, called Blue Line. Now it's going to take them maybe another 16 years to build you the Red Line. 24 years of planning to build you a fourth mainland bridge is not happening. You do not have water. Drinking water, government provided water doesn't exist in Lagos. You do not have a motorable road. You know that yourselves. You do not have any drainage system that is befitting of any modern city in any part of the world. You are living in the shittiest capital, you say, Abi? But you won't agree because politically, Tifnubu built Lagos. Now, to everybody where we say they build that Lagos, they live inside that Lagos. Not the Agberos that came to Lagos and were sleeping under the